There are many organs in the human body: heart, lungs, stomach, liver, kidneys, and so on. All are marvelous in their own way. One organ, though, is distinctly underrated, and that is the tongue. Just think about what the tongue can do. It's more flexible than any other part of the body. It can enlarge, it can contract, it can twist itself into a number of shapes. The tongue is essential to the digestive system. When we eat, it churns food around in our mouths, coating it with saliva. Then when we swallow, it pushes the food on its way down the throat to the stomach. The tongue is also home to our taste buds. It tells our brains whether food is sweet, sour, salty, bitter, or that complex savory taste known as umami. The tongue is an early warning system, helping us avoid foods that are harmful and leading us towards foods that foster health. The tongue resembles a muscle in many ways. It's composed largely of muscle tissue, but it doesn't function like any other muscle in the body. It's not anchored to bone by ligament like the muscles that move the skeletal system. The tongue moves freely on its own. Anatomy teachers call the tongue a muscular hydrostat. It's closer to an elephant's trunk, an octopus's tentacle, or the powerful so-called foot of a snail than to any other part of the human body. Apart from its essential role in the digestive system, the tongue has another completely different purpose. It's our principal organ of speech. There are no fewer than 44 distinct sounds in the English language. Linguistic scholars call them phonemes, and the tongue has a role in producing nearly every one. The tongue shapes the air we exhale into words, repositioning itself with each syllable at various locations within the mouth. Those who have the misfortune of losing their tongues, or even a portion of them, are rendered incapable of speech. Thus, the tongue can be quite dangerous. The ancients knew how important it was. We can see this in Psalm 52. But there's no celebration of the tongue's marvelous capabilities here. To this ancient singer, the tongue is a curse. The tongue is a deadly weapon, a sharp razor that can destroy others. Psalm 52 is what biblical scholars call a psalm of imprecation. There are 10 of those in the Psalter of the Hebrew Bible, songs that invoke judgment, calamity, or curses upon one's enemies or those perceived as the enemies of God. So the target of this singer's righteous rage is anonymous, but it's not hard to discern that this enemy, O mighty one, is powerful. This adversary is treacherous in spirit and relentless in battling people of faith, a villain who loves evil and delights in plotting destruction. You love to destroy others with your words, you liar. In another translation, verse 4 reads, you love all words that devour, O deceitful tongue. What suffering precisely this adversary has wrought isn't specified, but it clearly has something to do with the spoken word. Some bullies pummel others with their fists. This ruffian uses words like a switchblade. If you have ever been on the receiving end of a bully's rageful words or a lover's lies, you know how deeply they can cut. Because words are the common coin of our social relationships. Sometimes we belittle them, disparaging political speech, for instance, as only rhetoric. We complain about trivial small talk conversations, not realizing how subtly they function as the glue in many relationships. Yet words can be so very powerful. Just think about what it means to hear someone say, I love you. Or to hear that same person say, I never want to see you again. Words can be airy and insubstantial, like dust motes floating in a sunbeam, or they can be deadly daggers running us through to the very heart. And it's this lethal use of words that the writer of Psalm 52, is concerned about. The flip side of this, of course, is the beguiling tongue that can also unite us with others. Lovers may use a knowing look from their eyes, or the gentle touch of a hand, or a powerful embrace to build connections with their beloved. But the communicative power of all these body parts is nothing compared to the words produced by the tongue. Neuroscientists are learning more about how this works. In a recent TED Talk, neuroscientist Linda Feldman Barrett describes how the words we share with others actually shape their brains and ours. Part of being a social species, it turns out, is that we regulate one another's body budgets, she says. The ways in which our brains manage the bodily resources we use every day. For your whole life, outside of your awareness, you make deposits into other people's body budgets as well as withdrawals, and others do the same for you. The power of words over your biology can span great distances. I can text the words "I love you" from the US to my close friend in Belgium, and even though she cannot hear my voice or see my face, I will change her heart rate, her breathing, and her metabolism. Your nervous system can be perturbed not only across distances, but also across centuries. If you've ever taken comfort from ancient texts such as the Bible or the Quran, you've received body budgeting assistance from people long gone. Words are a sort of common currency we're constantly exchanging with our neighbors. Pull out a dollar bill from your wallet. Look at what it says at the top, Federal Reserve note. Observe who has signed it at the bottom, not you, but whoever was Secretary of the Treasury at the time the bill was printed. We're quick to say of our current batch of greenbacks, "That's my money." But in a certain sense, it's not. And it never could be. Money is a part of a great common pool that by social agreement, we freely exchange with others, and by doing so, exert a powerful effect on their lives. Dr. Barrett's point is that our words function in a similar way. How we use them can bring our neighbors joy or devastation. Truth, a wise person once said, is like fine china. If it breaks, it can be mended, but it will never be the same again. Do you remember the last time you broke something precious? Maybe you were lifting a china teacup off the upper shelf and it slipped from your hands, falling end over end in the slow motion way that only precious things can fall, until it met the floor with a crash. Sick at heart, you gathered up the pieces and put them away, out of sight, and now weeks later, you take the fragments out to glue them together. The truth is, it's never quite the same again, is it? No matter how expertly you reunite the pieces, no matter how strong the high-tech epoxy you squeeze from the tube, the crack is still there. Even if it's nearly invisible, you know it's there. And every time you take that teacup off the shelf, your eyes dart perversely to that hairline crack. The cup may be usable, but it no longer delights the heart quite in the same way that it once did. Such is the effect that lies have on human relationships. Now, I'm not talking about the so-called white lies, those garden variety deceptions that most of which are kindly meant. No falsehood is to be admired, but white lies rarely do extensive damage. Far more devastating are the broken vows, the betrayals of trust. Perhaps there's a betrayal of trust lurking behind the psalmist's complaint about words that devour. There's no pain more lingering nor deep than the agony of discovering that a promise made long ago has been habitually and deliberately broken. It's like the crack in the china cup. The seam can be repaired and the cup may be serviceable for years afterward, but never again is it the same thing of beauty and delight that it once was. Of course, the best advice about lying is to not do it in the first place. Putting away falsehood, let all of us speak the truth to our neighbors, for we are members of one another, as the apostle advises in Ephesians 4. Members one of another. We belong to each other in families and in friendships and in church. And out of that mutual interconnectedness comes an obligation to speak and to live the truth. Now, this is no license to go around spilling our thoughts at every opportunity. A woman who was known as a harsh critic of other people once told John Wesley, "Mr. Wesley, my talent is to speak my mind." "Madam," Wesley replied, "God wouldn't care a bit if you would bury that talent." Needless to say, there's a subtle difference between facts and truth. Our words can be factual, but may still fail to be true to who we're called to be as followers of Jesus. The devil sometimes speaks the truth, as one old saying goes. It's possible to wound a friend just as thoroughly with facts as with lies. The criticism may be true and may even be needed, but if it hits the person where self-esteem is weakest, it will tear them down instead of building them up. It was William Penn, the early Quaker leader, who once said, "If thou thinkest twice before thou speakest once, thou wilt speak twice the better for it." It's when we speak without thinking that we truly get into trouble. Many years ago, there's a story from many years ago about a woman who was proud to welcome the financier J.P. Morgan to her house for tea. Now, Morgan, I don't know if you know this, I didn't know this until I read this story. Morgan was not a handsome man. He was known especially for his bulbous purple nose, which was the result of a severe skin problem that resulted in growths and lesions. His nose, they said, looked like a purple cauliflower. He was known to be particularly sensitive about it. His hostess walked up to him, teacup in hand, and asked, "Mr. Morgan, would you like lemon or cream in your nose?" No doubt it was factual that the woman was horrified by Morgan's nose, but speaking the facts is not the same as speaking the truth. If it's indeed true that God is love, then part of the discipline of speaking truly as a Christian is to speak love. The wildly popular self-help book, The Four Agreements, which is grounded in ancient Toltec spirituality and offers a beautiful reflection on this very matter. The Four Agreements was written as a code of conduct that can transform one's life on behalf of personal freedom, true happiness, and love. Sounds a lot like Jesus, doesn't it? Well, the first of the Four Agreements is to be impeccable with your word. This is what the wisdom goes on to say. Speak with integrity. Say only what you mean. Avoid using the word to speak against yourself or to gossip about others. And use the power of your word in the direction of truth and love. So, just words, right? It's easy to dismiss any remark, our own or another's, as just words. We're taught as children to let it go, when sticks and stones may break our bones, but words will never hurt me, right? But words are of tremendous importance because all of the ways they function to strengthen the social fabric, connecting individuals and communities. The most significant and upbuilding words are those that are fundamentally just, that reflect divine justice. Sometimes we zero in on and condemn certain words that seem superficially offensive, cuss words we sometimes call them. It's significant that such four-letter words, and we all know what they are called that. Cuss really means curse. And in ancient times, a curse could be deployed as a deadly weapon. Shakespeare's plays contain curses far more colorful and dangerous than the casual four-letter words that spill from people's mouths these days. In Richard III, while viewing the corpse of King Henry VI, Lady Anne says of his murderer, Gloucester, Oh, cursed be the hand that made these holes. Cursed the heart that had the heart to do it. Cursed the blood that let this blood from hence. More direful hap betide that hated wretch that makes us wretched by the death of thee than I can wish to adders, spiders, toads, or any creeping venomed thing that lives. If ever he have child, abortive be it, prodigious and untimely brought to light, whose ugly and unnatural aspect may fright the hopeful mother at the view, and that be heir to his unhappiness. If ever he have wife, let her be made more miserable by the death of him than I am made by my young lord and thee. Now that is a curse, yeah? Ironically, that curse is an example of just words, because in uttering it, Lady Anne is protesting a terrible injustice. Words have the power to offend. The Baptist minister and author Will Campbell was on a call-in talk show to discuss one of his books. A woman called and asked him what, as a preacher, Campbell thought about those bad words his musician friend Charlie Daniels sometimes used on TV. I don't know, ma'am, Campbell responded. What did he say? Well, I couldn't repeat that, the woman answered. Campbell offered to say some bad words and invited her to indicate the bad ones with a yes or no. Did he say prejudice? He asked her. No. War? No. Nuclear bomb? Why, no. If I don't know what he said, and you can't tell me, I can't very well express what I think of it. But those are the worst words I can think of. I can think of a few more. Poverty, hunger, domestic violence, sexual abuse, misogyny, racism, homo and transphobia, scapegoating, gaslighting, hate. You can probably add a few yourself. The meme that we sent out this week with the teaser for today's worship quotes love as saying this: there's no need for words. I will just show you. Sometimes just words or unjust words aren't what we think they are. The Creator has given us tongues and lives to use as tools of righteousness. The words and actions that we fashion can serve the cause of justice or injustice, can serve kindness or callousness, can be of compassion or exploitation. The words and the actions that we fashion can serve love or hate. In choosing, my beloved, may we choose wisely. May our lives witness to Christ's love. May our words bring reconciliation. May our thoughts be of peace. May our touch bring healing. May our actions count for justice. May we be a sign of hope and a beacon of joy. And may we be impeccable with all of it. Amen.